back again. As we keep saying, the Europeans, they have been fighting amongst themselves, and it got to a point that the British and the Portuguese, the Dutch decided to swap their properties. So they are about to cross a bridge, and that bridge marks the demarcation between the Dutch holdings and the British holdings. What they were doing, what was happening initially was that wherever the British, this is the river they call the Sweet River, and this marked the boundary between the British holding and then the Dutch holding. Like I was saying, what was happening earlier was that when one group realizes trade is thriving anywhere, and one of their European groups is there, they also quickly go to that place. That's how come in Accra, if you recall, we have part of Accra known as Dutch Accra, then we have British Accra, and we have Danish Accra. It's very interesting that the boundary between the British Accra and Dutch Accra, one community is only a street. It's only a street. So those in the British Accra area, brothers, they now see those in the Dutch controlled area, their enemies. Your friend's enemy is your enemy. So that was the type of thing they were doing. Now, to foster trade, they know there is the need for peace. That's how come they say, cool, why don't we just, demarcate the coastline among ourselves? So Dutch, you stay in one area, British stay in another area. So Dutch forts which were in the British control area now come under British control area, and vice versa. My beautiful brothers and sisters, we are passing through a very interesting community now, known as Gyaahadze to your left. This is a community of migrant fishermen from the eastern part of the country, southeastern part of the country, known as the Volta region. They are Anglos. I speak the same language with them. They are not indigenous of this place. Like I said, they are migrant fishermen. And I'll draw your attention to the type of architecture, the buildings that you see over here. It's a mix. You notice bricks, and you notice the clay type of building, the mud building with the thatch roofings, with coconut branches and others used at times as fence. Because they are migrant fishermen, they come here during the fishing season, transact their business, and when they have the lean season, they go back to reunite with their families back home. But with time, some of them decide, so they utilize the resources of the environment to provide for their temporary, living space. But with time, some of them decided to make this place a permanent home, so they started replacing some of those temporary structures now with a more permanent one. That's how, as we go along, the community extends forward. You have a mix of the concrete and the traditional clay, or what we call the adobe type of building. Now a number of resorts have been built along the coastline to make room for people who want to relax and have nighttime, or even a lot of eateries are coming up along the coastline. So the coastline is changing very fast. And I believe my brother will attest to that, because the last time he came here, now you see that there's so much change along the coastline. Yeah, very rapid. Within the past 3-4 years, a lot of developments have taken place, and it's still taking place over here. So this is the community of Gyaahadze. heaps of firewood that you see along the street, heaps of coconut shells that you see along the street are meant for processing of the fish. Now the fish that is caught are processed mainly by women, and the processing takes 3 forms. 1, smoking. Number 2, sun dry, salting and sun drying, then frying. But then the smoking takes the larger chunk of the whole catch. And when they smoke it, through that they preserve the fish, that it can be there for more than 1 year. When well smoked, it doesn't get bad. It's not only for their local market here, they sell it in different communities across the country and even all the way into Europe. So major business takes place. Apart from what the fishing activity, they also came with the art of converting cassava into an easy to eat meal. That's what we call curry. You see them in bags on the table. Some yellowish. It's only food color that has been added to the yellowish. It's actually white in color. That's what it is. It's a quick meal. You just treat it like you handle cornflakes. A little water, sugar, milk to taste, and then there you go. You may decide to add peanuts to it. To your left, we are passing by the western gate of University of Cape Coast. University of Cape Coast. Now, Cape Coast is seen as the cradle of Western education, or formal education in Ghana. We'll be talking about education, the different classes of education in Ghana, but Cape Coast is seen as the cradle of formal education in Ghana, because they started in the slave dungeons, training children that they have come up with the local women to prepare them to become clerks, to prepare some of them to become, how do you call it? Intermediaries, helping them in their trade activities, and train some of them for their forces, local forces and others. When you get to the castle, we hear much about that. So this area that we are passing through, especially to your left, you come across a number of educational institutions. Most of the oldest educational institutions that we have in the country are found right here in Cape Coast. We will be passing by one of the old senior high schools, one of the grade A St. Augustine's, which was opened around 1920 and all that. So we are getting close to the castle now, to the slave dungeon appropriately, and let me just leave you.
But wasn't a castle for the European